my thing is that it wouldn't be the rose-colored glasses. I don't think, like, I can be wrong. Obviously, I think this is going for a long time. I don't think it ending anytime soon. That's obviously wishing and hoping.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not insinuating that. And just as an aside on that, I have no problems with a manga or an anime having a definitive concluding point. That's perfectly
I'm
fine.
okay with it turning into like a Naruto.
Well,
But-
as long as it doesn't have a lot of filler,
Right,
that's my only
obviously,
problem.
obviously.
Where you know what, if it wants to go for 180 episodes and that's it, that's fine. If they have 500 good episodes, that's in
fine.
some ways even better.
So what I think will happen, I don't think it'll be the rose-colored glasses you have. I think Deku will be number one because it's that amalgamation of power and the fact that he has that charisma, he has that mentality, he has that analytical side. I do think that he will change the way things are in the sense of it being more stable and less in the sense of hierarchy, in the sense of one being better than another. I mean that in a very like harsh term. Like I feel like obviously there'll be heroes that are better or worse than another on a comparison level, but I think that it'll always still be the fact that you will have to work. You will have to earn money in some way. Being a hero is a profession. It will always be a profession, and people will pay you to have that profession. Because I don't think the police force is ever going to be enough. Because I
Not
don't
in
think
this world, God no.
because villainy will never stop. It's like saying crime will never end, so there has to be somebody to stop it. I just feel like Deku will be that person to bring out what is best in each person rather than making them feel bad for what they are. I think that he will... It's kind of like a Gaara thing where you're not a monster, you have these abilities, you are a very valuable team member, and I think he'll bring that out in people. And I feel like a lot of people won't be as lost. And I think he'll find a place for people who don't have that astounding quirks, that they will still have a place in society and that they won't be kind of lost in the shuffle. That would be my kind of very vague vision. But yeah, I don't think it'll ever be everyone's number one, because you just can't.
Well, like I said, it would go, in my opinion, it would go from an individual sort of thing where it would just become like the our organization, we're the number one organization for heroes.
But
versus,
then it's just a group higher than another than instead of...
Yeah, but I mean I think that reflects a better sort of ideology or principle on being a hero, where it's like you shouldn't be judged based on your combat experience or your flashiness or your ability to procure the most ad revenue. It's more, it should be, I think, again, you could say that I'm wrong on this one. All Might is number one for however they do their rankings. He's failed before. I believe that he has 100% said, he's like, yeah, like, I've lost people. Like, get over it. That happens.
Yeah.
If Endeavor has been 100% success rate, I don't know if they've went into the analytics of how they judge who's number one or number two. If he's a 100% success rate, shouldn't Endeavor be number one then?
But that's the thing, though. It's an amalgamation of many things. Like, it hasn't gone down, like, concretely what makes up the standings. But All Might is... How can I say it? It seems like Endeavor is more of the fact that when he gets on cases, he finishes them. Whereas All Might isn't as concerned about the numbers, he's concerned just about helping people. And he does his best, even though he might not be able to do his best. Like, it talks in a couple, just in passing, I can't remember the exact section, about the fact that he lost people. And it's like, you have to make that choice of who you can save and be okay with it. Because obviously you'll have tons of people screaming for help, and you have to decide which ones are the ones you save. And I find that a lot of the popularity of who's number one goes into the fact of power. It goes into the fact of speed, mentality, analytics. It goes into, a lot of it is society and the fact of popularity. And All Might is like the pinnacle of charisma. Endeavor is not. He is hot-tempered. He is fast to react sometimes. He is not okay with fans. He's treated them poorly. We see in future arcs that he's very rude to fans, even small children. And he is not very appeasing to the public. Yes, on paper he looks great, but when you have him out in front of other people, he's not award-winning in any sense.
Yeah, he's not good at playing with others.
Right. Whereas All Might basically checks all the boxes of doing his best. And all you can ask for is the best. In every category, he's done his best. Whereas Endeavor, he doesn't do his best on sociability. He doesn't do his best on playing nice with others. He doesn't do his best on a lot of things where it's just his way or no way. And either you bend with him or you don't. And that's why I find that him and All Might clashed a lot. Is All Might was very by the book. He believed in what heroes should be and the rules set in place by society and then by heroes. Where Endeavor just felt like he did what he felt was right. And it might have been what fell into the rules and the law, or it might not have. And it just landed that way. So I find that All Might, again, checks all the boxes. Where it goes into ranking of some of the pro heroes, and it doesn't go into how they get their ranking, but you can see on a very, basically on paper, that they're insanely talented, that they saved a lot of people, that they've worked well with others, that the society as a whole has looked fondly upon them.
So I think, and I mean I could be wrong, I think the manga has had like a picture of the top 10 or something at some point.
Yeah, at some point, yeah.
Were any of those top 10 search and rescue?
I honestly, don't quote me on this, I don't remember. I think a lot of them that were top 10 were people that you call in severe crisis. So you had All Might, you had Endeavor, you had the Ultimate Genist, you had, I believe, I can't remember her name.
Isn't the gunslinger one, he's up there too, the one who's really good with the guns, who came to the UA?
He is one of the main people at the school. I can't remember if he was top 10 or anything. He was pretty cool though. There
is Aizawa top 10?
I don't think so. He is one of the top heroes, but he's not top 10.
See, that makes me wonder about,
But Aizawa doesn't play nice all the time. He's very analytical, and he's, an awesome character. You and I both love him.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just the fact that he also has limits, as we've seen. He has limits to his abilities. Other people have figured out his limits. Another thing about All Might is people still don't understand his limits and what his true power is. Aizawa, as we've pointed out in the first season, we know what his powers are, we know what his limits are, and we know what to look for. He also gets very tired easily. Obviously, he strains his muscles with his eyes. He plays pretty well with others. It's just the fact he's just kind of low energy, kind of doesn't really give a shit about a lot. It still makes him a very integral part of being with the pro heroes and being a part of a lot of missions, because he has that ability to cancel quirks, and he's very good that way. But at the same token, he's also somebody who wouldn't want to be top 10, because he hates publicity. He hates all of that fact. He hates being in the public eye, and he said it many times, he's I don't want to be a part of this. That's one thing he hates about All Might, because he always tries to appeal to the public, and and appeal it's okay, you have to deal with the media, where Aizawa's just fuck them. just do what you have to do and don't do anything. And so there are people that have just been in it for a long time, and they're pros.
So that's where I wonder if maybe that's part of the thing that Midoriya will end up changing, where he's going to be number one because he does everything, but he'll probably be the first to say, just because somebody like Sue can't fight as well as I can, that shouldn't mean that all of a sudden, just because she's great at search and rescue, that she shouldn't be in the top 10 or something like that. I don't know. That's just, I find and part of the reason why I feel this is such a compelling thing is because, the rankings exist. The creator put him in there for a reason, and the fact that Midoriya as a whole, this is one of the big things. He wants to be number one. Todoroki wants to be number one. Bakugo wants to be number one. And they talk about extensively with All Might, where All Might's you should strive to be number one. He even said, he was talking with Midoriya about Bakugo, and he said, you two will always push each other, and that's a good thing. You should always have somebody pushing you to be number one. So All Might really values this current way of understanding the hero society.
Well, I think All Might's more of the fact that it's kind of like anybody, even in a relationship. It's the fact that you get somebody who challenges you, so you never kind of become dull. I
Yeah.
think that's basically his what he explains. Obviously, upcoming in the upcoming seasons, basically about Deku and Bakugo, about how they're basically going to help each other forever because they have the ability to be rivals in the fact that they will bring out the best in each other and they can bring out the best in each other. And I think that's the point he was making, just the fact that it's always good to have somebody that will always drive you to do better. And
So it's not necessarily a comment on individualism because, like you said before, All Might has been very good at working with others. He's
Right.
very good at working within that system,
Right.
and that's probably the major failing of Endeavor is that he doesn't. He's sort of like, you're going to tell me to do this. I will do it how I want to do it with my own people in my own way. I have a 100% success rate. You don't have any right to question how I do things.
Right.
I don't need any help. I have all the help I need. Let me go do my thing.
yeah, it's the fact that Endeavor thinks that what he does is right. Excuse me. What he thinks, blah, blah, blah. He thinks what he does is right, even if it doesn't go with normal rules or with the expectations of heroes. If he thinks he's in the right, it is therefore right. Whereas All Might does what is best for the people, the rules of the police force, and the rules of heroes. And he tries to abide by them as much as he can. Where Endeavor, he plays by the rules for the majority, but if he finds that his belief or idea is better, he will go with that and override that system.
Okay. So I don't know. So I mean, maybe there won't be a big change like that towards the end of the series, or maybe that's not where they're moving towards. Maybe I'm being
Too
influenced.
harmonious.
I'm being influenced by Naruto because that's essentially what ended up happening there was,
Right.
We're better together and
But as
come
you
back
see
and
in
help me out and everything.
Boruto, everything sooner or later goes back to being crap. Sooner or
Well,
later, there will be somebody.
The stakes
to wreck
are
the
way
system.
lower in Boruto, but I mean,
Obviously,
that's
but I'm sure it'll ramp
a
up
different
again.
thing. Yeah, escalation.
Escalation.
always happens.
But that's
Uh,
the thing. I don't feel like that will be. Obviously, could be years down the road. But I feel like the creator of My Hero Academia did such a good job of the fact that there's so many aspects to this anime and manga that it doesn't need to go to berserk levels. Like, literally berserk levels. But just in the sense of, like I was saying, like Overhaul. It's not like he's the strongest of any power, because obviously All for One is the strongest power right now. But it's just that idea of fear and not having kind of a way to like stop it. As like we saw with Aizawa, that was probably the most like exciting and traumatizing thing about the first season was the fact that he is a pro hero. He is one of the best, and there was no way for him to stop Shigaraki's decay.
no.
And that there was
Of course
nothing you
not.
can do, no matter how good you are. If you got in close contact, you're screwed. And it's the same with Overhaul. It's that fear of how bad could it be. And obviously, we see in the manga that it can be pretty bad. So I think it's just that unknown fear and the fact of what they're capable of, and the fact of like the mentality of Stain, the mentality of the Yakuza, the mentality of the precepts of death. Kind of each mentality is different, but how as it works like in a hive mind, how scary it is, and the fact of how it can affect what a hero is and what it means to be a hero and your role as a hero and what you also have to take on. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that the series is doing a very good job so far of balancing all of those really well and not getting too far into like one form of villainy is inherently better or stronger than the other, or this person is more villainous than this one, or anything like that. It's the same thing with, again, I mentioned with the UA Class A, where yes, there's a couple of characters who are, less powerful than the others. There's some that are essentially a bit of a joke. Mineta, I think that's his name. Like he's
Yeah,
a bit of
Mineta.
a he's a bit of a joke character, even though he had his moment to shine. in season 1. Some other characters are shown that like they need to work a little bit more to catch up and whatnot, but otherwise they're all still being shown to be useful and to be very very needed. And that's where I feel that a lot of other series have, a lot of shonen series have dropped the ball, where if you are not part of the upper echelon, you get ignored, you're useless, we only touch on you because some fandom still exists for them. I don't even know if Yamcha is still around in Dragon Ball Super, and if he is,
Probably.
he's 100% a joke character. Even into Dragon Ball Z, he was essentially a joke character. He went on to, at the start of Dragon Ball Z, he's playing baseball. He's not even really like training anymore. In Naruto, beyond Shikamaru, the rest of them, even in the big war at the end of Naruto, most of them are kind of cannon fodder. They're there. It's like, oh, it's great to see you. Oh, you are absolutely obliterated at the first sight of somebody legitimately powerful. Mm-hmm. So they're just a measuring stick. Even the 5 Kage, who are supposed to be some of the most powerful beings in existence in this world, are kind of chopped liver in comparison to the big bad. Again, that's escalation for you, but I feel like that My Hero Academia has put together a scenario where that might not come to fruition. Where instead of it being like, well, we have All Might who's super powerful, well, we better bring in a character who's even more powerful. So, whereas All Might can punch something into the air and into the sky, he'll punch something so hard he just crushes them into the moon. Like, that's not how you do escalation. And with the quirk system as it's done, you can create very terrifying people who physically, like, there's nothing that these characters could do to All Might. And a lot of them, I don't know if Overhaul was to ever, fight hand to hand with a bunch of the Class A students. Well, I don't know if he would necessarily pose a significant threat to them on a physicality level, but it's that quirk where it's like, oh my god, like, you let him touch you, you're dead, essentially.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen with Overhaul, with the 8 precepts of death, basically the fact that he, even just talking with Shigaraki and his guys, like, he touched one of them and exploded his arm. Like, it doesn't take much for him. And it's just, like, any contact. All he needs is just, like, Shigaraki, where it's just that contact, and he's able to do it. So even, like, the slightest slip of getting too close. Mm-hmm. Obviously he's not physically insanely strong. He looks, on a physical build level, rather weak. It's just the fact that he has that insane quirk, and he seems to have, like, a clean issue where he doesn't like things that are, I don't want to say a germaphobe. He's just kind of like, he likes to be cleanly.
Yeah. He likes to be unencumbered. He doesn't want things on him or whatnot beyond his own weird hands. But whatever. The anime hasn't touched on why he's got weird hands all over him now and then. But
maybe... You're talking about Shigaraki. Shigaraki and Overhaul are different.
Oh, okay. Overhaul is the one that's
This is the newer one, yeah. Shigaraki is the one with the hands all over his face and arms, and Okay. Overhaul is the one with the plague mask.
Oh, okay. And so Overhaul doesn't
He's new
like
for you.
to...
Yeah, he likes things clean, and he doesn't like being in uncleanly spaces, so to speak. And you notice that he can sometimes, like when using his ability, I think it was mentioned that he gets kind of like a rash sometimes, but it hasn't been shown always, so I don't know if there's obviously like Bakugo said in the tournament, everyone has their limit. It's just finding out what those are. And kind of like you're talking about Red Riot and Deku, like everyone has their limits, and I find with Red Riot, we find out obviously in later chapters here that he is able to harden, but only to an extent, whereas like one of the villains hits him and he bleeds. Like, he is able to be cracked, but obviously hitting that limit.
It depends on how hard, and and like I said, my thought was, I don't know if Deku has the physical strength, or at least he doesn't have the control of of his quirk yet.
No, not to 100% or anything.
To do that sort of damage to him. I don't know.
He
maybe
could still do damage, I'm assuming.
He would also just destroy his own arm, but...
Well, you might not have... You haven't read that far, but he's kind of switched to using more of his legs.
Yeah, because...
He's damaged his arms.
His arms are pretty bad. But that's where I feel... That's where shonen, like, the great shonen differentiate themselves from the good ones. Dragon Ball Z is a good shonen because eventually the escalation gets ridiculous. You had two main villains in the series who the only reason that they were around so much is that they can take blasts that would normally destroy a planet and they just come back from it. They're like, oh, I can just reform.
Yeah, they had like sensu beans. They had all this revival stuff. They had
both Cell and Boo.
The Dragon Balls to revive the...
Well, yes, the good guys had their MacGuffins, but the bad guys did too. Cell came back from blowing himself up. Boo literally was almost like atomized. Like because if you watch when Vegeta is self-destructing,
right.
He literally engulfs Boo and rips him apart. So all that's left are like little piles of goo everywhere. And yet Boo just comes back and he's like, yeah, huzzah, I'm here and I'm still as powerful as before and all this sort of stuff. So like escalation gets really bad. That's why Dragon Ball is good. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is good, not great. Dragon Ball is better because I feel it doesn't do that. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is another one where the escalation happens, for sure, but it never gets to the point where it feels like, oh, this is some, I use the term all the time, MacGuffin. This is just some MacGuffin to make things last longer.
Right.
Like, it made sense within their world that, you know, you have this item that can basically make you capable of almost anything in terms of alchemy.
Right, the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, and, I mean, that's the whole, like, they wanted it the whole series too. Like every alchemist basically wanted this thing, and they fought somebody who had it. So that's as powerful as they could be, and yet they still had limits. The escalation never hit a point where I was like, that doesn't make any sense, or okay, they're doing this just to make this last longer. And I feel like My Hero Academia is not ever going to hit that point.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that even you and I have had this conversation of maybe it could eclipse Full Metal Alchemist. Maybe. It could. And that's the thing, especially based on what I've read. I feel like it could. And I know people are like probably just screaming right now, but
I don't know if people are screaming. Like it's running at a clip on MAL of like 8.7 or 8.8. It's
getting pretty high, yeah. But my thing is, I think the reason why it would be better than Full Metal Alchemist, like even Brotherhood, that's another thing. But anyways, it's just the fact that what I think a lot of people complain about, people who never weren't as what's the word I'm looking for?
Familiar?
Weren't as, not familiar, but kind of impressed by it. It's just the fact that it dealt with a lot of topics. It dealt with a lot of episodes that were very slow. You know what I mean? And it had a lot of build-up to get to those really great moments. They were very worthwhile, but it took a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, whereas, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with storytelling for the sake of making bigger events.
Right, and I'm okay with that too. I love Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's in my top 10. But I think the thing that works so well with My Hero Academia is the fact that it utilizes everything that it has to the best of its ability, which is when I first started doing like the breakdowns of episodes, it's like, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this. Where it's like, I love that they fully explain things, that they don't talk down to the viewer, that everything is kind of put out in a process that makes sense, that even if you were a first-time viewer, this makes sense, that they have diagrams, that they have visuals, that they have the representation, the fact that everything is working to something larger. And I know in the beginning of the tournament arc, everyone was like, wah, like they complained so hard. They're like, oh, another tournament arc. But I feel like...
I think there were a few very...
vocal
people who were like, I don't know if I like this because... And I understand to some degree what they were saying is that this definitely ensures that some characters are seen as simply better than others. But that totally negates the fact that somebody could have made, I think, Gadget Girl, whatever her name is,
May.
she could have beat Ida. She 100% had Ida beat
Yeah.
and could have went to the next round, and who knows what she could have had. She could have had a gadget to beat everybody, but that wasn't her goal. Her goal was like, I just want to showcase my gadgets are fantastic. You're going to hire me. I'm going to be the one behind everybody here in like 5 years. I'm going to be the one who makes all of their suits. But she was still a legitimate threat, and I don't think anybody would put her, in terms of like power, nobody's going to put her in a top 5, because...
But I think that's the point of May, is the fact that she points out what part of the point of the tournament was.
Yeah.
It was the fact that some were there to, kick the crap out of each other. Others were there just to be seen. Like, they know what it is. They have to get a job. They just have to be scouted, and that's that. This is kind of like the checklist of things to do. And then there's other people that were just in it because, they felt like they had to.
Yeah.
And we see that with a lot of them where they're like, well, I don't feel like I deserved it, so therefore I'm not doing it. And I found the tournament arc was really great. And a lot of what happens in the arc, I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil everything majorly tonight. Basically, the fact is, a lot of things that happen in the tournament have a huge effect on what's about to come up in the next 2 seasons, especially.
Yeah.
Huge repercussions.
Well, I mean, we saw a hand guy. He was watching the entire tournament take place.
That's a good hint, is Shigaraki was watching the entire event. And we see who placed where and what that could possibly mean. And it's really great. I love the series. I love everything it's done. I love it. I can't complain. I love everything about it.
I was going to say, like...
I love it.
Excuse me. I mean, nothing is perfect, so definitely there are some things...
Everything has room for perfection, but in my top echelon of things that I love, this is one of them.
Yeah. I think, like, overall, it wears its influences on its sleeves. I don't think anybody would make the argument that this is a 100%, like, well, this is a totally original idea that we've never seen before.
Nothing is original.
Yeah, I mean,
let's be honest.
I'm just now, because I'm a little behind on some popular anime. I'm just now watching through One Punch Man.
Right.
I could see the influences One Punch Man had on this.
One Punch Man is also a deconstruction.
Yeah, but I mean, still, like, there are some things in there where I was like, I wonder if My Hero Academia would have went that route if it wasn't for One Punch Man having done something similar first.
What do you mean?
Like, the whole idea of needing to work your way up a professional hero sort of standard. That One Punch Man, despite his amazing ability, was ranked at a C, whereas Genos is ranked at an S class, where he is supreme. But it shows, and Saitama gets attacked by other heroes because they just want to push him down and be like, my ranking is super important. You are screwing with my ranking.
Right.
And so I wonder if he would have hit so hard on the whole idea of like, well, yeah, like if lots of heroes existed, they would have to have some sort of a government program. Everybody would have to be kind of ranked. One Punch Man did that beforehand.
Kind of what they've done. I don't get what you mean, because like it's a deconstruction, so lots of shonen have done it. Maybe not in a very like verbal out there way, but it has always been like a classing system. Even in Naruto, they had the classing system of quests and things they did, and they were put based on the exams of their ranking. I think that's always been a shonen thing. It's just maybe not been so
a little bit, but I mean, I don't find it coincidental that an anime about superheroes doing that, and then My Hero Academia coming out so soon afterwards, utilizing that conceit as well.
The manga was like well ahead. Like the manga for One Punch Man and then the manga for My Hero Academia came out at different times.
So are you like My Hero Academia came first? Is that what you're saying?
I honestly don't know which came first. I'm assuming it would have come first, but even if not, like that mentality has always been there. So it's not like, oh, they couldn't have thought of it on their own.
No, but I mean, it wears its influences on its sleeves. There's when I explain it to people who only maybe have a passing fancy about anime or whatnot, the first things I mention are, it's got things about Naruto because it's like a school for exceptionally gifted people and learning how to utilize their abilities to best help the organization. Mm-hmm. It's like X-Men in the sense that, people are kind of stratified based on their abilities, whereas in this one, in this, like, Deku was looked upon poorly because he didn't have a quirk,
Right.
whereas in X-Men you were looked upon as being weird and terrible if you were a mutant. So I was like, it has influences. Everything has influences. So, but again,
I guess I'm just lost on your point.
that it's not 100% an original construction. That's
of course
all.
not. Everything's based on something else, and the fact is, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, it's based on the idea of comics. It's based on the Western mentality of heroes. It's based on a lot of stuff. And, even which I loved, it was the outro, the most recent one. It kind of pokes fun at RPGs and kind of like different mentalities.
Well, fantasy, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
for sure.
But basically just kind of, the creator knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
And he's very aware of it. And it's not even poking fun at it. It's the fact that he loves it so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's his kind of appreciation. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a negative. I'm just saying is that I want to temper some expectations. If you've listened through all of this and you haven't watched My Hero Academia yet, you've just been spoiled for a bunch of plot points. But just saying, when you watch it, don't necessarily expect a revolutionary thing that has never come before. It is.
But I don't think that would ever happen.
Refined. Arguably, I would say I've never, except for maybe like Back to the Future, I've never seen anything do time manipulation and whatnot like Steins Gate. That to me felt very original. It feels still to me somewhat revolutionary in how it does its storytelling and whatnot.
I think the reason it feels so revolutionary is because it was done so well. I can't obviously think of the name of it right now, but I know there's other, not necessarily anime, but movies that have tried that concept. And as soon as they couldn't back it up with even partial science, it falls flat, and no one believes it. Where with Steins Gate, obviously you get into the bananas and microwave, where you're like, that's not believable, but just in that context of, something just, an anomaly happening, and something weird and deviating, and then these weird events happen. But then they explain the time differences so well, and diverging timelines, and the meter and everything else just makes so much sense, and you love it so much, and you love really everything about it. It's hard not to say it's not original because it's done well. It'd be like me saying Baccano's so original because it really amalgamated the idea of gangster and mafia and alchemy and all these things, and that's such a great original idea because no one's really tried to do it successfully. They've tried to do it maybe, but as individual parts or as an unsuccessful kind of showcase, which didn't get the audience that it wanted. Where even now I feel like there's not enough audience for Baccano, but I'll say that in every single podcast. I love it, so there's so much to love about it, but that's neither here nor there. But I find that's why I just don't feel like anything could possibly be original. In some way or another, everything's been explored, but if it's been explored in a successful compounding way.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like My Hero Academia is the amalgamation of some really good ideas done wonderfully well. And sometimes that's all you need for a 10 out of 10. This is exceptional. I can't say even Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, it's not like that's a 100% original idea. There's been alchemy, there's been magic, all these sorts of things have happened before. I still give it a 10 out of 10.
But that's the thing, it's all these things that work together in conjunction that make it really great.
So this is... My Hero Academia is a fantastic shonen. If you are watching it to have something that completely deviates from what a shonen is, it's not going to be that. It's not a deconstruction. It is definitely a shonen. That being said, One Punch Man, despite it being a deconstruction, is still a shonen at its heart. So it still follows a lot of the same conventions. But it's excellent. I have it rated as a 10. It's wonderful. It is the amalgamation of many great ideas.
Yeah. I don't see eye to eye on a 10 up for One Punch Man, but I also have noted before my criticisms of deconstructions, and it also has some other issues, but
I give that like a 7.5.
It's nothing glaring, my issues with One Punch Man. It's just another podcast.
You should do a podcast about why you don't like deconstructions. That'd be interesting.
I don't know if anyone would be interested.
Thumbs down. Lots of thumbs down.
I was about to say, I don't think anyone would be.
Madoka isn't that great. Thumbs down.
Oh Lord.
No, but people need those conflicting.
I know. At some point,
viewpoints.
I'm sure somebody would want to hear it, but for
Me, I've liked our conversations.
I know
about
lots of
such
people
things.
have asked me, but I don't know if anyone really wants to hear as much as they want to scold me.
Should do like an essay type
Do
video.
a live stream where I'm like crying. No, I was kidding.
It wasn't like Madoka would ever make you cry. It just you didn't like it as much. That's fine. That's 100% fine.
You should see how many people have gotten mad, though, for me not liking certain deconstructions. But anyways, neither here nor there. Anyways, I feel like this has turned into a place to wrap up for this podcast. If you have any questions or things you'd like to explore, I'm more than happy to talk about this because it's one of my favorite things right now.
It's going to be one of your favorite things forever.
Forever. I love it. There's not much I can complain about, if at all. I love the characters. I love the progression. I love the stakes. I love the fact that they've done it in such a very I don't want to say slow burn, but in the sense that it knows how to pace itself, and I appreciate that.
Yes, it has wonderful pacing.
And just as soon as you feel like there's a calm, it's building up to something else.
Yeah, the only thing I could say that I want more of that I haven't seen yet, and it's probably because it's building to that point because the stakes aren't that high yet.
I could tell you.
I want to see how the rest of the world operates.
Right.
I want to see, and that was something I liked about Naruto, where they mentioned like, oh hey, we've got all these different villages. Mm-hmm. They react differently depending on
right.
their own ideologies and principles. I would love to see how does Canada work in this world? Has the creator thought of that?
It's
in terms of like how does Europe build their sort of hero things? That's what, and maybe that's coming up. Maybe that's what he's building to, and that would be phenomenal.
I'm sure at some point he will build to that because as far as my recollection goes, the most they kind of talked about external is basically in the most recent chapters where they've talked about the black market and crime, the fact that it extends further than where they are now and into other countries and continents. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we haven't visited these places. We don't know about the heroes there, but it's kind of talked, so we know that it's talked about, so we know that it's definitely real. It's just the fact of when we get there.
Does North America have their All Might?
Right.
Is All Might just seen as the best in the world? Because we only see Japan. Like,
it's seen that All Might is the best in the world by the sounds of it, but obviously here as well. Because they'd start talking about different schools as well, because the UA isn't the only school. You find out there are others.
Oh, we could have some Harry Potter type stuff going on. There's so many avenues
really
they can go.
It's exciting and it's wonderful, and you get to meet, not spoiling anything, I can't wait for all of you to watch because they get into more pro heroes that are very awesome and just design-wise just great to look at. I find that a lot of characters that you could possibly love are more, they get delved into more. We see some of their quirks, especially with Class 1B. We see some of their abilities. We see friendships that form. We see different living quarters with the kids. It's just great. I can't speak highly of it enough. I've recommended it to everybody I can think of, and I will not shut up about it. So
no, you shouldn't. It's great things deserve to be talked about, especially when in comparison to sometimes what ends up being popular, something like Sword Art Online. Oh, Erased is better than Sword Art. Let's call a lemon a lemon. Erased has some problems. Sword Art Online is like the bane of our existence in terms of what that's going to do to anime. Please help us make My Hero Academia the one that pushes forward the genre and not fucking SAO.
Oh God. All I can say is I know with good certainty that this will be the next big shonen. And I'm so happy knowing that it'll continue on because I feel like it has a lot of potential. It has a lot of life lessons. for younger and older readers, viewers, and I feel like there's lots of places to go. The anime is incredibly religious to the manga. They do a great job expressing all their ideas. If you get the chance to get the manga, the creator doesn't waste any time between panels. If there's blank spaces, he gives you more information on characters, just like, funny kind of little jokes or thoughts he's had about it before even creating it. He really cares about it, and it shows with all the work that's put in. And even now in the newest part of the, I should say the second half of the season, you see some of the information of characters. Those are things that you would see on like some of those, what you'd see in most mangas, the blank pages. He just wants to give you as much information as possible because he wants to give you as much as possible with what he has. Mm-hmm. And he was also like a fan of reading manga, and he was always disappointed getting the blank pages, so he felt like he had to fill them. And, I just love that kind of fan being a fan being a fan, Yeah,
it brings you into the thought process of creation,
right?
Which I feel sometimes creators, for whatever reason, if they don't know how to pass that information along, if they don't want to because they feel like sometimes like, well, my process is kind of everything that I am. I don't want to give away trade secrets or something like that. No, the creator is an open book, and he wants you to understand where his mentality was when he was creating certain characters. He expressly says that sometimes he's like, I'll make female characters look titillating because I like that.
Yeah. Or like he said, like, what were some of them? Like 13 was meant to be a boy, but he said it was just more fun, kind of drawing her, and the idea that it would be a girl, that he left it that way. Same with Sue. I believe she was supposed to be a boy initially, and then he just fell in love with her design and the way she looked and the way her mannerisms developed, that he just kept her as a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's really interesting that he tries them as both genders.
Yeah. And he really plays with that idea of not just being stuck to the idea of it has to be all boys, or, commonly this kind of power would be with this kind of character or have this kind of prowess, where it's like they can have these abilities and be incredibly weak. They can have, like, these insane bodies, but have a quirk that has nothing to do with their their physique. It's very interesting ideas and concepts played with. And yeah, the whole way through you can just see care, and me seeing the anime every week makes me incredibly happy.
It's going to go on for 10 years. It's going to be the next Naruto. You know what?
That's my wish.
I'd like to say it'll be the next One Piece, that it will eclipse even that.
I was about to say One Piece has hit a long stride, so I don't know about that.
Who knows? With your help,
never know.
With your help, Internet, we can make it eclipse even One Piece, maybe.
I was about to say I don't think so, but I hope for the best. I know good work will get good attention, and so with that, I think that's where we'll leave you tonight, and I'll thank Jeff for joining me and talking about My Hero Academia.
Of course. Absolutely. Let's start another one. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Restaurant to Another World.
Oh, Lord. I could talk forever, especially about My Hero Academia. Just on characters alone, I could probably talk for hours. But maybe that'll be another podcast. But anyways, for now, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, we'll see you later.